guys, welcome back to another Virgo Girl recommendation. And today's recommendation is going to be Bob Marley, One Love. Now, this one was different for me. When I say different, I mean, I have to be honest. I have heard rumblings about Bob Marley and his wife. I've seen a couple of YouTubers kind of break it down a little bit. However, I am not familiar, like on a, like it was before my time. I'm not familiar with everything that went on. And I feel like everything that I've heard has not been to the point where I feel, okay, this is exactly what happened, if you will. So when going into the movie itself, I kind of felt like appreciative of the way they, included the things that they did feel. But at the same time, I felt a little bit disappointed that a few things were left out. But nonetheless, I do recommend this movie. It was a good movie. I feel like I will call it a tragic, or should I say a sad love story. That's what it seemed like to me, like just a sad love story. Basically, I feel that this couple was almost like meant to be, because I feel like if it wasn't for his wife, things wouldn't have played out the way that they played out. And we wouldn't have the Bob Marley that we have today and, everything. I do feel that they met for a reason, and I think everything happens for a reason. However, I want to say the way they portrayed Bob Marley, he seemed like a troubled soul from the beginning, of them talking about his childhood, just the things that he went through. And I won't go into depth, because for those of you who don't know, or if this is your first time on this channel, this is a recommendation channel. So I don't really give spoilers, if you will, but I just kind of skim over, and I'm recommending the movie, but I kind of just give you an overview of why I feel like it's a good movie, or, some key things that I saw without spoiling it for you. So there's that. Anyway, so basically him and his wife, they come from very, very humble beginnings. Him, I feel like even probably more so than her. And he really had an interesting background, of just even like with his father and then just his mother. I mean, everything was just very, very interesting. And he had a troubled childhood. One thing about me, I always talk about, and I'm always very interested in a person's childhood, because I feel a childhood definitely, definitely impacts where you end up as an adult. I mean, I think it's just very important. It's such a very important part of your life, your childhood, whether it's good or bad, whether you're good or bad or whatever, however you ended up turning out. I'm always interested to see where you began, because I feel like that has such a big impact on where you are at this, as an adult. So with that being said, Bob Marley, he started out very shaky, with his childhood, and he definitely didn't have a good childhood from the way they presented things. Then, when he got into the fame, what I got out of everything that I saw, he seemed like a simple person who was not necessarily materialistic. I feel like he wanted to have a good time. He wanted everyone around him to have a good time. But I don't see him, the way they showed him, he didn't seem like someone who wanted to be wearing like name brand clothes, who wanted name brand cars. I feel like he was a very, very simple, humble person. That's how it, came off. And with that being said, other people who had other things in mind, who did want to be flashy, who did want, the best cars, the fast life, the name brand designer, it seemed that people took advantage of his kindness and his, just how he was, when it comes to being humble and things like that, and not needing all of the, maybe the necessary money. So it made it seem, the way they kind of like told the story was like as if he really didn't get everything that he probably should have by way of money, because people were taking advantage of him. And we all know that happens a lot in the music industry, even today, but especially back then, and especially to a lot of the Black artists back then who weren't necessarily educated on what they needed to be doing. And they come from extremely poor, beginnings. And then they are, they become famous, they become stars, and they see money, but it probably wasn't even a fraction of the money that they should have had. But for them, because they come from such humble beginnings, and a lot of them weren't as educated, they didn't know that even though it may look like a ton of money, it still wasn't what they were owed, kind of thing. And I should, I say all this to say that also impacted, I feel, his relationship that he had with his wife. With his wife, what I got out of what I saw, with her, is that she was actually smart. She was on top of it, and she was very quick-witted, and she was very like savvy, street smart, if you will. I think she could very easily saw what was going on. She saw the fake people for who they were. She could tell that people weren't being on the up and up. She could tell that there should be money where there wasn't money, and money was going places it shouldn't be going. But my perception of things was, because this was so long ago, and before, back then women really didn't have the rights that they have today. Women weren't seen as a voice that should be listened to, if you will, especially when it's like all men in certain situations. So I noticed that there were certain times where she, even though she knew what was going on, it seemed like she kind of kept quiet. And I feel like I attributed that to the times, and also her just having respect for her husband, if you will, wanting to like let him lead. So she didn't really say much. But then I also saw a side of her where she did, kind of speak out in her own way and say, hey, this is not right. And what I saw with her from the movie that I concluded is that she kind of did it in a way to where it wasn't like she was being disrespectful of, to her husband in front of others, or, trying to make herself look smarter, or, put him down in any way. She did it in a way that it was more like a conversation with her and her husband, where it was more like, whether it was like an argument or whether it was like, just conversation in passing or what have you. She did it more to where it was just him and her. And it basically, it was kind of kept between the two of them. And it kind of just still kept him to where he was still the one who was in charge. He was the leader. He was the man, kind of thing. I saw that for me, that's kind of how I interpreted the way she communicated with him. Now, don't get me wrong. They did have some, ups and downs where she was not happy with him and they had arguments. But I'm just saying, overall, I feel like she took a lot. I feel like she put up with a lot. And because to me, the way everything seemed, there was genuine love there. But one of two things can happen in relationships. People outgrow each other, or, one person starts to kind of feel themselves, if you will. So I feel that there's times where a person can love the other person, but something happens, like in this case, Bob Marley became a huge star. Well, when you become a huge star, what comes with that? A lot of attention, a lot of, groupies, a lot of, things that you hadn't seen in the past. So sometimes that intoxicates people, and they indulge, it's just overwhelming, and they indulge in those things, even though they shouldn't, but they do. And then once they do, they start to like it, and then they start to kind of push away the person that's been there for them. But at the same time, the way I saw this film, even though, Bob Marley was doing his thing, I feel like he still wanted his wife to be there. He didn't want her to be, elsewhere. It still seemed like he still wanted to keep that unit together. I'm not going to go into any deeper into that because I don't, like I said, I just want to kind of keep away from spoilers. Overall, this was a great movie. What did I like the most? Well, you know what? I'm not going to say it was a great movie. I'm over. That's not the word I will use. I'll say it was a good movie. They did a good job covering everything as well as they could, I guess. I feel that it was good that they had, when I read the credits, a lot of the family members were involved with this, even the wife, and looks like some of his children. However, as I've said in the past, and I will always say this, a lot of times when a documentary is done and the family is heavily involved, I think they should always be involved. You know, the people in the people who are alive and who can speak and whatever, I think their input is very important. However, if it's heavily influenced by these people, a lot of times the narrative goes a certain way because, I mean, people are only human. You know, there's certain things they don't want out. They want things to look a certain way. They don't want to be too harsh, as opposed to when you see documentaries and an outsider is kind of more in charge and they get the input from the people, but there's other people who have the final say of what the final cut is. I think those tend to be a little bit more gritty and a little bit more of a realistic, you know, you get a more realistic idea because a lot of times, depending on who's involved, they're going to leave some stuff out. They just put it like that, just to make sure that things don't look too harsh. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened on this particular film because I don't know. I'm not really sure. I just saw that in the credits, there were a lot of, there were like family members. I saw his wife's name on there. So it just led me to believe, okay, so the family was involved, they put their input in. And when I say involved, I mean like producer involved. So, they did have some strong influence on this documentary. With that being said, for me, I thought it was pretty good. I thought that the thing that I liked the most, and which really is why I'm recommending it, is because the music. I love music. I think music is so powerful. It's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it made me want to go listen to his music. Some of the songs I didn't know, I have to be honest, but a lot of his songs are just, I mean, everybody knows them. Like, the One Love, he just has songs that are just, I feel like, so classic that most people have heard them. But it did make me want to go listen to some reggae. It made me want to chill and, hang out or maybe go to a reggae concert or something or some festival because I love the concept. I love the idea, just chill vibes. What it would be like to be, there, on an island somewhere, just listening to the music. It just seemed so peaceful and just so cool. But anyway, the music was great. It definitely made me want to go and, like I said, listen to some of the music, some of his old music, and just go back and go through his catalogs and just kind of play some, reggae music. I'm not a big reggae fan either at all, but I do like Bob Marley's music, the ones that I've heard, the songs that I've heard. He's very talented and he's a really, really good artist. So I enjoy his music, but I'm not a fan, like just someone who's just a big fan of reggae music. Also, I want to add that the wife, I want to give a special, special shout out to the lady who played the wife of Bob Marley. She did an amazing job. She played Rita Marley. Her name was Lashana Lynch. Oh my goodness. She killed it. She nailed, I mean, she's just a good actress. Now, I don't know, like, how they prepare for these roles or what, what goes into all of it, but she made it look so effortless. And I believed her. I believed her character. And not only that, she was beautiful. Everything about her was just beautiful. She seemed like such a, like a kind person. And it resonated through the screen. And I love that. I thought she did an amazing job. The person that played Bob Marley, okay, unpopular opinion. I I know he was playing, it seemed like he was playing like a more younger, and yeah, he was because of the times. It was like in the 70s. He was playing like more of a younger, version of Bob Marley. But Bob Marley didn't live to be that old anyway. But the point is, so the person that played Bob Marley, I thought he did an okay job, but I feel like, oh, the movie would have went a little bit better if they would have casted someone else to play that part. I just didn't, I don't know, something about, his acting. He seemed to me like he was a theater actor, maybe, you know, I don't know, but it's just something about the way he came across, on the screen as, like for a movie role. It just, and then playing Bob Marley, I didn't love it. I have to be honest. I think they should have gotten someone. To me, he was almost too clean cut. I needed him to be a little bit more rougher around the edges a little bit. Bob Marley just was, more very natural, very, just kind of rough around the edges, if you will, when it comes to like his appearance and just, he just seemed like he was just very, just in the, I could just picture him, on the islands walking, just being one with nature. He just didn't, this guy just, I don't know, he didn't quite nail it, if you ask me. Aside from that, the other characters that played in the movie, I'm not mad at it. I think they did a good job. As far as the accents go, I don't really, I didn't even take the time with this movie, I haven't even had a chance to go back and see where these people are actually from. But as far as the accents, they sounded fine to me. I didn't have a problem with any of the accents. I think they did a pretty good job, if you will. I mean, it wasn't like perfect, but they did a decent job with the accents. That's always something that really gets me, when the accents are kind of weird and not, accurate. That is something that I'm kind of a stickler with, but I'm not going to go there with them. I think they did okay with that. So we'll give them a little break on that. But overall, I think it's a good watch, especially with the music. Makes it a lot, more interesting, if you will, just because the music is so good. You got to turn the music up and listen, or put your headphones on and watch this. And the music just gets you in a good mood. The storyline itself to me, was sad. I just thought it was a sad storyline from beginning to end and all the way through, because there were so many things going on, so many injustices, and just, I thought it was a sad movie. Overall, I just thought it was sad. The only uplifting part for me was the music. The music, and then, of course, it was inspiring, and it was uplifting to see him make it, to see a person who's talented actually make it, doing what they love doing. But look what he had to go through to get there, and look at the obstacles, but, there was a lot of things that he had to go through in Jamaica, and it was just a lot of political stuff going on. He just lived in a time where, unfortunately, he had to deal with a lot of stuff that he really shouldn't have had to deal with, if you will, because really he was just an artist. And too bad he just didn't have time or have the ability to just be free and just be the artist that he wanted to be, without dealing with all the obstacles that came into place while he was trying to just do his craft. But in life, I guess we all deal with that, right? Obstacles coming in while we're just trying to live our life, while we're just trying to work our, do our jobs or do what we love. I guess that's just life. So, I mean, I guess I can't really say that, because everyone goes through that, if you will. Not to the extent that he did. Everyone doesn't experience it, but I guess everyone has their own obstacles to overcome, and, things come up with everyone. But anyway, I thought this was a decent watch when it comes to, documentaries. It wasn't my favorite documentary, And, you know, I had my things with it, but I do recommend it because I thought it was, you know, done well enough to where it was an enjoyable watch. And I like the way they threw the music in. I can't say enough about the music. And the wife. Again, I want to say kudos to her. She was a great actress, and I just, man, I really, really, really thought she did a spectacular job. I just have to say that. Lashana Lynch, great job. I'm going to go ahead and close this video, guys. Until next time, don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Peace.